A cosmic entity known as the Greater Will oversees all in the lands between. And once upon a time, they chose a queen, Queen Marika, who would rule over the lands, shaping the world in her image. She ascended to godhood. She waged wars. She removed death itself from the lands between by stripping the rune of death from the Elden Ring. Queen Marika went on to have many children, both of her own and ones she took under her care. Namely, there were two. First, there was Godwyn the Golden, a radiant figure and the golden child of his parents, Godfrey and Queen Marika. Next, there was the lunar princess, RANNI, the master of her own fate, the fire of the Greater Will, and importantly, she is the daughter of the Carian royal family. Her parents are Queen Rennala and Lord Radagon, who left Rennala for Queen Marika, making RANNI Marika's stepchild. The reason the Golden Sun Godwyn and the Empyrean RANNI are so intertwined is because on a fateful night, both were met by Black Knife assassins and were killed. The Night of Black Knives, as it would come to be known, saw the Black Knife assassins use a stolen fragment of the Rune of Death to kill both of these demigods. Yet, it only killed Godwyn's soul while leaving his body behind to decay and mutate. With RANNI, it only killed her body, left atop a tower, while her soul went on to possess the body of a doll. And the one who orchestrated it all to strip herself of her Empyrean flesh was RANNI the Witch. Hello, my name is Cole, and I started this podcast for a school assignment with the goal of learning more about podcasts and content creation, social media growth, and audience analytics. For the last few years, I've been listening to videos based around my hobbies and interests while trying to fall asleep or relax, and this is what has inspired me to make this podcast, where I look to analyze a character from different types of media, as well as analyzing their choices and their personality, so I can help you relax. For this episode, we will be discussing the Lunar Princess of Elden Ring, RANNI the Witch. First, we'll touch on briefly who RANNI is. Next, we'll dive into her history before the events of the video game. Then we will address her choices during your playthrough of the game, before finally analyzing RANNI's personality and behavior that influences her decisions. While this discussion will go over a great deal of Elden Ring's lore, we will be focusing primarily on RANNI, the role she plays, and her vision. If I miss any lore tidbits, I apologize, but hopefully we can cover almost all there is to know about everyone's favorite ghost-possessed doll from the lands between. In Elden Ring, you play as the Tarnished, a group of warriors who were sent away from the lands between, only to be welcomed back. Early upon your entry to the lands, you encounter RANNI. She greets you, asking if you are the master that can call the spectral horse Torrent, which you are. She introduces herself as the witch Renna, never mentioning her true name, but she does openly wonder if you tire of the Two Fingers, the servants of the Greater Will, which you will later find out she resists. As for who RANNI is physically, following her death on the Night of the Black Knives, her soul took over the body of a doll, a puppet of sorts. She has pale blue porcelain-like skin, 4 arms, 1 eye closed shut, and a ghostly, ethereal visage next to her own face. She wears an outfit modeled after the Snow Witch, one of RANNI's mentors who taught her the sorcery that she wields today. Though RANNI is a mysterious, private individual with detailed plans of how she wishes to control her own fate, she is still a deeply loyal and influential leader who steers the lands between towards a new future. She might seem as though she is a manipulative person, and honestly she might be, but she leads with a pragmatic stance as she remains steady on her path of self-determination. So, let's discuss Ranni's history before your playthrough of Elden Ring begins. We'll run through some points we have already touched on while introducing some new aspects. Ranni was born to Queen Rennala of the Carian royal family. Her father was Radagon, who eventually left her mother to become the second Elden Lord. She has two brothers, born from the same parents, the blasphemous Rykard and the mighty General Radahn. Ironically, both siblings would go on to lose their own minds in one way or another, as would Ranni's mother, as she became enveloped in her grief following Radagon's absence. Two other important parts of Ranni's youth were her bestowal of her Empyrean status and her meeting with the Dark Moon. Upon Radagon and Marika's union, all of Radagon's children were elevated to demigod status. Sometime before or after this, Ranni was also granted Empyrean status, a word I've used a few times throughout this tale. Essentially, an Empyrean is someone who could potentially succeed Queen Marika, ascend to godhood, and continue residing over the lands between on the Greater Will's behalf. But Ranni, perhaps from a very young age, did not want this. Still, she was given a shadow-bound beast, a wolfman by the name of Blythe, who was given to her by the Greater Will to serve as her protector. He would be raised as her foster brother. Another one of Ranni's acquaintances was the family blacksmith, a giant troll named Iji, who would go on to be in service to Ranni. Also in Ranni's youth, her mother Rennala arranged a meeting where Ranni would encounter her Dark Moon. Not much is known about this Dark Moon, but it is one of the moons that influences the lands between. Moons are very important symbols to the Carian royal family, and despite warnings from Ranni's mentor, the Snow Witch, about the occult nature of her Dark Moon, Ranni still found herself drawn to it. As for other historical moments in Ranni's past, there is the aforementioned Night of Black Knives, and the eventual shattering of the Elden Ring. Most of the Night of Black Knives has been covered, but I will still lay things out as plainly as I can. In an effort to sever her connection to the Greater Will, Ranni sought to kill her Empyrean flesh, while still maintaining a semblance of the power that she could use to usher in her new age. The way she could ensure her partial death was through marking another with the curse mark of death, for which she chose her beloved stepbrother, Godwyn the Golden. First, she directed the Black Knight assassins to steal a fragment of the Rune of Death, which had been hidden by Queen Marika for some time. Marika hid it with her own shadow-bound beast, Malekith the Black Blade. But it wasn't enough. Ranni was still able to steal a fragment away from Malekith and orchestrate the killing of Marika's son. The Night of Black Knives would lead Queen Marika to destroy the actual Elden Ring, disrupting the lands between and resulting in a civil war and power struggle amongst her children. Ranni, for the most part, was uninvolved in the actual civil war, but the shattering resulted in all of the demigods receiving shards from the Elden Ring, including Ranni. However, it is believed that she cast hers aside, with its whereabouts remaining unknown. Now that we know Ranni's history, we can walk through her decisions throughout the course of Elden Ring. She has one of the most expansive quests in the entire game, so there is a lot of small aspects to it. I will try my best to summarize things in a simple manner. I will look to break this up into 4 separate parts. Meeting Ranni properly, Radahn's festival, your journey underground, and finally, the dedicated ending. First, you properly meet Ranni, where she confirms her true identity to you, while instructing you to meet the rest of her allies, the scheming Celibus, the blacksmith Iji, and her bound protector, Blythe. She asks you to help Blythe in finding a hidden treasure locked away in the also hidden city of Nokra. In your quest to aid Blythe, Ranni instructs you both to attend a festival celebrating her brother Radahn. In reality, the festival is being held by Radahn's companions, with the intention of putting the general out of his misery. Radahn is a brutal adversary. Not only is he physically strong, but he also wields powerful gravity magic. But, after being infested with a rot, Radahn has lost his mind and begun to cannibalize his companions. Yet still, he holds true to his gravity magic. And that is where the problem for Ranni lies. Radahn has used his gravity magic to hold back meteors, the stars, and the entire night sky. These celestial bodies, precious to the Carians, and as it decides their fate. And so, Radahn must be dealt with. Upon defeating Radahn, the meteors he once held back begin to show themselves. They crash into the earth, and it is through their destruction that you find Nokra, the Eternal City, hidden underground. This leads you on your first of many journeys underground as you explore Nokra. Within the city, through much exploration, you find the hidden treasure that Ranni spoke of, the Finger Slayer blade. After conferring with Ranni once more, she sends you back underground towards another hidden eternal city known as Noxtella. She tasks you with slaying assassins sent to ensure her demise, and they are known as baleful shadows that just so happen to mirror her protector and your friend, Blythe. Upon completing your task, she finds a key which leads you to a chest that grants you the Dark Moon Ring. After obtaining the Dark Moon Ring, you return underground once more, for a final time, to slay the Lovecraftian monster from the stars, known as Estelle, natural born of the void. All of the quests Ranni sent you on lead to this, where you slay this cosmic horror, and literally ascend into the sky, to the Moonlight Altar. There, you will find the dormant body of Ranni the Witch. She has used the Finger Slayer blade that you obtained to kill the two fingers that preside over her fate. You are now able to gift her the Dark Moon Ring, promising to aid her in securing her new age she wishes to bring in. This is essentially a marriage proposal, as you promise to become her consort. She ascends to godhood. This brings us to Ranni's Ambient, where she ushers in the Age of Stars. After you defeat the final boss of the game, a physical manifestation of the Elden Ring itself, you bring in Ranni. She has finally reached her ascension. Two of her brothers have been slain to aid her mission. Her inner circle is almost entirely disbanded, as Celebus attempted to betray her, only to be put down himself. Iji was assassinated for his loyalty to Ranni. And Blythe was always cursed to betray Ranni. On behalf of the greater will, he held on until the very end. As he succumbs to his madness, you are the one who has to lay him to rest. Now, standing where the Elden Ring once stood, Ranni brings about the Age of Stars. The Age of Stars is described as a 1,000-year voyage under the wisdom of the moon. Ranni's Dark Moon. With the Tarnished as her consort eternal, she claims what was once Queen Marika's and reshapes the lands between in her image. In many ways, Ranni the Witch is a morally complex character. She does many things that could be considered morally wrong or apprehensive, the chief of which being her role in the death of not only her stepbrother Godwin, but in some ways her biological brother Radahn. But there is clearly more to her story than just wanting to seize power, as she was given a fate that she never particularly wanted. She wished to rid herself of this. For the final portion of this episode, I would like to discuss Ranni's personality traits and how this shapes her decision, and how her decisions shape her personality. One of Ranni's most important traits is her influence. Her influential nature mostly is shown through you, as the Tarnished, but she also commands a small army ranging from Black Knife assassins to her inner circle, her most trusted companions. Throughout the course of Elden Ring, you as the Tarnished are sent on many quests to obtain different items for her, ranging from the Finger Slayer Blade to the Dark Moon Ring. You go on many quests underground and throughout all of the lands between, and you slay many beasts in her honor. And she is the influence in all of this. Ranni is relentless in her quest, but remains hyper-vigilant of those who would betray her, like her companion Celadus, and, rather unfortunately, Life. She also has to be aware of the dangers that she faces, such as the baleful shadows that are sent to assassinate her. The Greater Will might not be able to manipulate her directly, but it will attempt to lure away Life and the Tarnished. The Greater Will wishes itself. Ranni herself can be seen as manipulative, mirroring the Greater Will and its determination of her fate. This can be seen from small actions, such as Ranni lying to you about being Renna instead of the Witch Ranni. It could be seen through her being secretive and cryptic about different quests, such as you eventually going on to slay her brother Radahn. Or it could be her knowledge of the inevitable fates of Iji and Blight. However, most see this as her being very pragmatic. She understands the dangers that her group will face, as do they. This includes Blight, who overcomes his madness until the very end, in service to Ranni. Ranni herself is loyal to her close-knit circle, but if it's not clear, Ranni is also highly independent, because despite her need for allies and the shared loyalty that she has with them, she defies the Greater Will and carves her own path and destiny. The Greater Will sees her as a second choice to rival Queen Marika, but she forgoes this. She forgoes being a servant to them, and decides still to usurp Marika and the Greater Will in her vision. Ranni is a far-sighted strategist who sees a world that is rid of selfish deities and demigods. She sees her Dark Moon overseeing the lands between, for a 1,000-year voyage. Above all, Ranni is driven by her self-determination and her dream of deciding her own fate. Ranni's Age of Stars is contested the Elden Ring fanbase, as people are torn on if it is a good ending. Most would agree that Ranni is not the most evil person in Elden Ring, but her ending still decides the fate for many of the lands between. Does this make Ranni selfish? Or does this just make her a rebel who will do anything to see her cause through to the very end? In my personal opinion, I think Ranni is, as I had mentioned, just very pragmatic. I think she understands that she might have to sacrifice the few to save the many. I think where the contention comes in is that Ranni's view of the lands between, her age of stars, is not exactly what everyone might want. But perhaps it is better than the Golden Order, the Greater Will, and Queen Marika's reign. Regardless, Ranni's calculating character, despite the odds before her, makes her one of gaming's most memorable, enigmatic companions. I hope you all enjoyed this episode of Bedtime Character Studies. I suppose it was rather short, but hopefully for future characters I can dive a little deeper in, or at least just make them sound like this one. I hope you all enjoyed. Hopefully you were able to relax, or if your intention was to fall asleep, hopefully you were able to achieve that. And if not, well, I wish you the best of luck in your journey. Here, take this Moonlight Greatsword, and be on your way, fellow Tarnished.